Welcome back to the Human Resource. Today's show, we're going to talk a little bit more about when we have to lay someone off or when we have to furlough, kind of finishing that process through because it is different than an actual termination. So we're going to kind of complement a show that we did here a couple of weeks ago and go back to the conversation of when we have to have those parting ways conversations. And it was interesting when I talked to somebody the other day, they said something about, well, obviously we're not going to do an exit interview with them because there's no, we're the reason they're leaving. It's nothing the company did otherwise. I said, no, but what about all those finishing topics that are company associated, but also the employee has a lot to gain or lose with the absence of these conversations. So for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'm referring to a form called an exit interview, but this is all company-based information. And if you want a copy, please feel free. Otherwise, take some notes here. Because the form basically starts out with all the basic information. Yes, last day of employment, last day worked. But it's also going to go even further up before that, and we're going to confirm their current address. Let's make sure that the individual's current address in the payroll system is exactly where they're living. And at this time, remind them if that should change. Please let us know because you've got a W-2 coming at the end of the year. We want to stay in communication with you if something should change so that we can make sure you get that vital information. But also confirm their email address, their personal email address. Because remember, you're discontinuing or you may be turning off, even with a furlough, you may be turning off their work-related email. So identify what their current personal email is, just in case you need to get a hold of them. If something does happen, confirm their phone number. See, on exit interviews and on termination papers, we don't collect this stuff, but it's important. So let's go back to last day of employment. What about if we are going to extend the date? When can they expect to get their last paycheck before separation? Make sure that they understand when to accept that and when to be looking for that so that they don't overextend themselves. But at the same time, did you realize that we can stop 401 contributions or contributions into their retirement if they know that that's their last paycheck and they may not have any more ability to withdraw from payroll in the future? So clarify with them, is there anything you'd like to change with that last payroll? Do we as a company owe you any additional funds? Do you have any outstanding reimbursement requests? Did you buy anything on behalf of the company? Are you expecting a mileage reimbursement of any sort? These kind of things can put a really sour taste in somebody's mouth if you are not showing that you really do want to make this a good, smooth, professional separation. And it's okay to make plans if, let's say, they owe the company money. Maybe there was, they bought tools or something from the company, or they have a loan. I know some of my clients are still giving personal loans, extending PTO is something where at the time of termination, that employee may owe the company back money. Well, identify that in writing. Make sure that you're having that conversation. And the employee is not going to be surprised when you come back and say, oh, but I had to deduct 16 hours because you borrowed 2 days of PTO. And also go then a little bit further. What about their benefits? Are they going to owe their portion of a premium if during a furlough you've decided to allow them to stay on the benefits program? You see, these finer details, they affect individuals and their lifestyle. It's going to affect what they can live on in terms of compensation. How are you going to get that employee contribution into their insurance premiums? How are you going to collect that? When are you going to collect it? On what date? When are you going to determine it's too late and you may have to cancel the plan? I mean, go back, if you offer FMLA, go back and think about how we handle those situations, right? They have an ability to stay on the plan, but without drawing a payroll that we can deduct a premium from, they have to send us in their own check. In a furlough situation, have you made those arrangements? Have you thought through that conversation with the employee so that they are on the same page? Remember, emotion is going to really go high with these conversations. So if you're prepared and you can handle it in a peaceful manner, and maybe some of this stuff isn't stuff that you can actually get determined right away. Maybe they have to go home and talk to their spouse. Can we afford to write a check to the company for $200 or $300 every other week? Then decide and explain to them if they are going to go on to COBRA or if they're going to go on mini COBRA here in Ohio. Help them understand when to be expecting that paperwork. How's that going to be administered? Is it a TPA? Is it you? Just reassure them that you're aware that that needs to be done and that you'll be following that process. Now, those conversations were all about compensation. Now we're going to shift gears. I added to this form, what if they want an employment verification? There's a really good chance they may. Do you want that going to their supervisor? Do you want that going to their peer? I always tell exiting employees, look, if you need a letter of recommendation, all you have to do is send it to this person, and they'll provide it for you. Dates of employment, position held. If you need compensation history of any sort, then that's fine, but make sure we have a signed document from your financial planner or your financial institution. We aren't going to give that information out freely. And help them understand what to expect on that employment verification. Again, are we going to talk about performance? Or are we not going to talk about performance? Are we going to explain that they're on furlough? Or are we going to say that they were separated? Employees, it's okay to tell employees that. It's okay to let them know that you're both on the same page and that you understand they have to move on with their life. They have to ask these kind of questions. Of course, you've got 401k. How are they going to do it if they're being laid off and you know that you're not going to bring them back? Are they going to need rollover paperwork? Is that something that they go online to request, or do you send it to them? Does the broker send it to them? When can they expect that? 5 days, 10 days, 2 months? Then we can get back to collecting company property. And a lot of separation forms, termination forms have that on there. But it's never a bad thing when you're talking to the employee and just reassuring, hey, what about the key fob? What about passwords? What about any pictures, proprietary information, text messages that are business and proprietary information of the company, but they're on your personal computer? Maybe they're on their personal cell phone. You're allowed to ask for that. And we've talked about it a couple times on the show. I highly recommend. In fact, I think Dave Hatter even mentioned it a couple weeks ago. It's okay to put a policy in place requiring employees to submit their personal phone or their personal computer so that we can extract that information. You own that. You own that. But unless you're having that conversation at the time of separation, one of your employees is going to go home and all of a sudden you're going to be sitting in the office and going, hey, why is this file so small? And you're going to look at each other and say, oh, that's because they probably have it on their cell phone or they probably have it on their personal computer. And fat chance you're going to get that back, especially if you've laid them off. So have those conversations at the time of the separation. Talk it through. Remember, too, are there any appointments? Did they have any plans to meet with someone on behalf of the company? Were there conversations going on that you aren't quite aware of that someone else needs to pick up? And most of you will remember to ask this, but again, it's nice to have this form, and that way you can document that this didn't slip between the cracks. I asked it, this is the response I got, this is what we need to do to follow up. And then remind the employee the confidentiality, non-compete, non-solicitation, whatever the agreement was that they signed at the time of employment, that's still enforceable after they leave the company. And it's good to sometimes, in some situations, it's a really good idea to give them a copy of that and help them understand you're following it. You were serious when you had them sign it. You're serious today. You might also remind them that if they have any concerns or questions, who do they call? Do they call their supervisor in 2 weeks when they have a question? Or do they call you, the HR representative? I even, as a third bullet of reminders, I remind the employee, make sure you're changing your social media. Change your LinkedIn. If we've laid you off, please make sure that you've changed that and you're not still representing the company. So anyone investigating or looking at our organization reaches out to you and for you to speak on behalf of the company. These aren't meant to be difficult conversations, but they can be if you're not prepared. And I know that a lot of supervisors, directors, I even had a business owner who insisted on trying to do this kind of a conversation at the end of employment with someone. But inevitably, he would forget something, and I would have to step in and help him. This type of exit interview, as you can see, provides a lot of assurance to employees. It helps them understand, look, we have thought this through. We're going to be here to support you. In fact, it just dawned on me, one other reminder you might give an employee, even if they're being furloughed, is if they have personal items left in the company that they remember a week from now or such, to who do they contact so that they can collect those? Again, these are things that, well, in emotional times we tend to forget, but at the same time, it can leave a good impression. It can leave a good perception of your company in a difficult time. It's not the questions as to why, what happened, but even if for cause you're letting go of someone, this little form is a wonderful way to make sure that things don't slip between the cracks. So if you want a copy, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to send it to you. Just send me a note on LinkedIn or send a note over to P. Pridemore at the Human Resource USA. But I love it. It's worked well for me. Hope it works well for you. Thanks for listening. We enjoyed talking to you. Here at the Human Resource.